one of her friends that was a mutual friend, she's like, well, I like Angie and Jennifer's podcast, but they're just so mean. And I told her, I said, spot it, got it. Like, it hurts and it's mean if you really, if it hits your nerve, if you know it's true. And so it's a spot it, got it situation. Like,
we spend so much money and time. I'm talking to a former recovering attorney just like myself, Angie Sullivan. You know her, you love her. I had her friend, the sheriff, Jen, on recently.
sheriff.
The sheriff. They're the co-hosts of the extremely popular, beloved I've Had It podcast. And I was telling Angie that my father, a Pakistani Muslim immigrant, messages me excitedly because apparently Angie and Jen have been kind enough to feature or talk about like 2 tweets or something, and then they agreed with me, and my father like literally just said to her, "What's up, Angie and Jen? Angie and Jen agree with you." So I'm like, and he's like, "I finally made it." You know, for me not
Yeah.
becoming a doctor, this is finally it. So thank you for giving me cred within my Pakistani immigrant household.
Well, we will shout you out again. When I find tweets when I'm preparing for iHip News, if 2 things are equal, I will use yours so your dad can be proud.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a tear of pride. Angie, we have things, people might seem, things aren't common. You were born and raised in California, and, Angie's a white woman born and raised in Oklahoma. But, what is interesting is that both you and I come from religious communities. And Jen, your co-host, found it fascinating that I'm still a practicing Muslim and very progressive in my politics. She's like, we need to talk about that. That's fascinating. And she was telling me I've always been atheist, and my friend Angie, I mean, she's had her journey. I am very curious because this is top of mind, especially with the breaking news right now that a judge ordered the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Yes.
And you're seeing, we have to go after Antifa, and the Democrats said, "Is Antifa in the room with us right now? Where is Antifa?"
Right.
The cruelty of especially the Trump administration. Especially against immigrants, Angie. And I know I'm not asking you to be the ambassador of all white women and white Christian women, but in your communities in Oklahoma, when you confront your Christian communities with this cruelty, what's the type of response that you get back? Because I know they take the Christianity very seriously, give to charity, help people, but then they go, "I'll vote for Trump."
Right. Well, it's interesting because my parents, my mother in particular, super religious, super purity culture. You have to be a virgin when you get married. You can't live with somebody, all of those things. And is very, puts people into categories based on, well, she had that baby out of wedlock. Like, she still says shit like that. And so what I found interesting, and she loves Fox News. She and my dad, like, they snort Jesse Waters every day. So what I was having, we had like a really big dust up before the 2024 election. It was during the trial for Trump in New York City. And so you're talking somebody that asked me when I picked up my wedding dress, was I deserving of a white gown? So that's how serious we are, which of course I wasn't, just as FYI. That she wanted to, I asked her, I said, I am having a hard time reconciling the person that I've known my whole life, that you are willing to support a man that has had 3 wives, that has had sex with a porn star while his wife was pregnant, and carried on an affair with a Playboy bunny when that child was a newborn. I can't reconcile your support of that. And it was a complete, well, I don't condone that, but and the 2 buts that I see, and I see it a lot, is internalized misogyny. When you grow up in Oklahoma, I was raised to be, my mother wanted me to be a teacher because that was a good helper spouse job. She did not want me to go to law school. And she would say, I submit to my husband, yet my dad hasn't completed a sentence in 55 years. She runs everything, calls all the shots. So it's that internalized misogyny, and it's the ability that we were taught growing up in church that you're able to box stuff away, compartmentalize. Okay, well, yeah, but he's forgiven. The preacher has a big affair. We're just going to act like that didn't happen. So you have an ability for cognitive dissonance, which I had, and I still sometimes have. I have to really work on it. So that's the twofold thing about me growing up in terms of how do they still support it. I think a lot of it is boys will be boys. Like
Yeah.
the locker room talk, grab him by the pussy. I can see her going straight down that rabbit hole of, well, it's just boys will be boys, that kind of thing. So it took me a long time to deconstruct. And interestingly, I'm just talking the whole time, not even giving you an opportunity.
No, no,
But I
this is,
asked her.
I asked you. I find this fascinating. Please continue.
So I asked her, I said, right when the alligator Alcatraz, where people had merch, and I said, how do you reconcile that with what would Jesus do? Oh, well, I think he'd be all for it. They're criminals. I was like, no, they're not criminals. Being here illegally is a civil matter. It's not like you're not a felon. And she just immediately dismissed it. And so we just left it with, that makes me really sad. You can't feel empathy for these people, which is interesting because she's very empathetic. Like, she ran a charity educating lesser served communities, teaching them how to read. Like, she did it for 8 years. She organized like 60 volunteers a week. It's just when it's one-on-one, she can apply it, but unless it's personal to her, it's not applicable. And again, I relate that because of all this therapy I've had with it. The religious immunity that you're taught, like, you're immune from all this because you're better. You're entitled to not have those problems, that kind of thing. So that's where I think it stems from, is the religious indoctrination and the cognitive dissonance that you just kind of have to grow up with. And, you know, empathy is in short supply in the white evangelical church right now, in my opinion.
And I think you've touched upon something that I wanted to ask you about this, because I was really thinking, why is it that Angie and Jen really piss off these people, right? Because I'm sure, for those who don't know, they are obsessed with your show now. The last 2 months, I've noticed, right? I mean, I've been following you folks for a while, but like they watch religiously your show to pick out clips that they can then use as rage bait, like on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you this, but you set it up. So this is my thesis. I want to test this out with you. The reason why, in particular, they're really pissed off with you and Jen. First and foremost, you're very successful, smart, funny. It goes viral. That's number one. But I think the reason why it is you are two white women from the Bible Belt, and as such, how dare these two white straight women, these mothers from the Bible Belt, who historically have been, I'm not talking about you in particular, but I'm talking about, like, just historically, the handmaidens of white supremacy, they say, are these
Right.
white women who go along with the white supremacy because it helps their son and it helps their husband, right? They should know their place. And if they're the ones with the credentials, right? You grew up in the church, you're traditional conservative, right? You're white women, you're moms, you're straight, right? You're from Oklahoma, you have the roots. If we lose them, then the center will not hold. That's why I think they are really in particular pissed off by you and Jen and what you represent and the next wave of what you can do to these white women. My
Well,
take.
that's why liberal white women are now on the enemy from within list. But one other thing I would add to that is, I have a lot of friends from college. Most of my close friends from college, they've all come left with me. Maybe
Mm,
not as far left as I am, but definitely left. And I have a dear friend that's always been a raging liberal, even, when we were kids. And one of her friends that was a mutual friend, she's like, well, I like Angie and Jennifer's podcast, but they're just so mean. And I told her, I said, spot it, got it. Like, it hurts and it's mean if you really, if it hits your nerve, if it's true. And
mm.
so it's a spot it, got it situation. Like, all of the people on Fox News that had a meltdown about Cracker Barrel, like go to Cracker Barrel, don't go and enjoy Thai food and Mexican food and all that. They were so upset about that because it's true. It's
Mm.
true that you want to vote against immigrants, but you want to, you know, cover yourself in the culture, whether it be clothes, food, music. So I think it hits them where it hurts. And I do agree. We should be, because we broke a ton of hearts when we first started kind of tiptoeing into politics because we were expected to be Kellyanne Conway and Megyn Kelly archetype.
Mm, mm. Yeah, you said spotted got it. In the South, it's hit dogs holler. And I've been noticing it.
Right.
Yeah, I've been noticing it for the last 2 weeks because I've been getting the and Angie treatment from the right wing because I said exactly what you said in response to Donald Trump's cruelty and the cruelty against Somalians and Haitians and third world
Oh,
countries and send them back. And I was specifically talking not about white people, but white supremacists and hate mongers. I said, without our culture, you have shitty asses, bland food, everything sucks, and the American economy falls apart. And oh my God, they said, you said this against white people. I'm like, no, no, no. I said this against white supremacists. A lot of
right,
my viewers and subscribers are white. They knew I wasn't talking about them. However,
right.
if you feel like I was talking about you, then hit dogs holler. Spot it, got it. But there's something really interesting because you're from Oklahoma. You just told me the story about your mom. You got to go back for Thanksgiving, Angie. Like you have Christmas. How do you like this is I don't think people realize because I come from these communities, right? Human beings are social animals. These are strong connections that you can't just ignore. You have to go back to your roots. And a lot of people might say, "Oh, but you're famous." Yeah, but the core of it is this base that you have to go back to. You can't divorce it. So now that they see, they watch Fox News. I'm sure they see the clips that
Oh,
Jesse
yeah.
Waters. When you go back and when you have to go back for holidays, your family, your community, your parents, what do they say to you?
Okay, here's the interesting thing, which probably won't surprise you at all when I just said about the cognitive dissonance. It never comes up.
Mm,
It never comes up. They know that I am way left. Here's a really recent example. In September, Jennifer and I went out and hosted Kamala Harris's book moderation. And so I took my daughter. I wanted my daughter to meet Kamala Harris. And so my mom was like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And I just sent her that picture of Emily, myself, and Vice President Harris. And her response was, "Emily looks so pretty." That was it. That is the only thing we've talked about.
do you
So,
think do you think so is there a way to compartmentalize it for others? Because I know there are a lot of people, especially as things have gone. I hate this word polarized. Not really. The right wing has gone batshit crazy and extreme. There's no both sides here, but they just compartmentalize it. We won't talk about politics, even though politics touches everything now. Um, is there a way you think that you can broach it in these communities, which are so entrenched with all in with MAGA, even though it is cracking right now? Like, do you think? And I'm speaking because I always ask my subscribers, especially those who are white, identify as white. I said, you all have to do the heavy lifting right now. I can't reach these people.
right.
Like, like election after election, Angie, 45% of white people, not the majority, keep voting for the Republicans. Right, every three elections, not all white women, the 45% of white women who voted for Kamala, heroes. But, the majority of white women 3 times in a row have voted for Donald Trump. Um, I can't reach them. I say the same things you say. They're like, Muslim, lefty, progressive, immigrant, woke, DI. But you and Jen being white, straight mothers are the most powerful messengers to crack this, if you will, this nut that I can't crack. Um, how do you, if you will, navigate the politics then in these circles when compartmentalizing just can't be done anymore?
I usually, it's funny, people don't bring up politics around me. I mean, by design, other than people that I'm super close with and we talk about it. And we have disagreements on certain issues, and I'm fine with that. I don't want everybody to agree with me all the time. But what I have found the easiest way to do it is I try not to be condescending because that
Mm,
angers people so much. And I'll just say, for me, I can't watch what's going on without empathy. And then I put it back on somebody that I know is in their life. Like I've had the same housekeeper for 23 years, and she had not got her, she had a green card,
Mm.
and she did not get her, she wasn't sworn in until December. And I would just hold her hands and I would be like, you've got to get that sworn in. Like, I will give, it's expensive. It's like $1,500. I was like, we've got to get this. And so she did. And so that was the person that I mentioned to my mom. And it was immediate. Well, that's different. And it's not different. It's only going to be the criminals. That's not true. We're finding that's not true. So I just say, for me, I think about insert the person in their life. Like, for me, it was Mariana. I couldn't live with myself if something like that happened to Mariana and people that she loved. And so that's just kind of how I do it. But I really try not to be condescending because people won't listen.
Yeah.
And, I have been struggling with white women. I have 3 kids, 25, 23, and 20. So my daughter was a senior in college when the election happened.
Mm.
Women in Oklahoma have no right to reproductive reproductive health care. We have hospitals closed. We have 70% of the communities in Oklahoma, women don't have access to reproductive health care because doctors are leaving. They're not funding it. They have laws that your therapist or your doctor has to turn you into law enforcement if you are considering an abortion or have had an abortion. For me, with a daughter that was a senior in college, I was like, this is a layup. Like, nobody would vote for Trump. Like, you just can't. And people are convinced with it's states' rights. And what I have found is that white women of some economic privilege
Yeah.
have been able to say, if it doesn't happen to me, I can't worry about it. That's where I was in my early 20s, probably early 30s. I was more liberal in my 20s. But, when you have kids and your life's going on, what applies to me? And so you have to be able to elicit the empathy of somebody close in their circle that would be affected, that maybe it doesn't have the privilege of being white or have socioeconomic power. Because in a state like Oklahoma, the women that suffer the most are women of color and poor women. Because if one of my daughter's friends got pregnant and needed reproductive counseling or care, or, and it doesn't matter. Like, you can be married and just have a child that died in your womb and you still can't get care. But these women would take their daughters out of state because they have some financial privilege. That to me is the thing I try to fight the most because I've been that person. I've been able to, I'm not gay or I'm not poor, so it doesn't matter to me. And I just think we have to reach those people by taking a person in their life that would be affected.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, again, I come from religious communities as well, traditional communities as well. And oftentimes I see progressives, they don't know how to talk a religious language, if you will. They don't know how to connect with those communities. And I think many of them are winnable. Just based upon how you approach them without compromising your values, right? And oftentimes, as you know, people are like, yeah, religion's stupid. You're an idiot. How do you believe in God? It's the 21st century. I'm like, I get it. Fine. People still believe in God. What do you want me to do? This is where it is, right? Church, synagogue, temple, mosque. But there is a way to reach them. And especially when it comes to whiteness, it's your experience has been my experience. Well, it's not affecting me. Oh, those black people and those brown people, that's their culture. Why can't they just, raise up their genes? Where's their mom? Where's their dad? And then you saw it in real time, Angie, just a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you noticed, there was this Republican congressman. After Donald Trump used the R word,
Yeah.
right, against Tim Walz, he goes, I have a son with a disability, and everyone knows that, I'm very passionate about it, and this hits close to home, and I won't be voting for redistricting. So I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. But it only took 10 years after he said the R word and it affects you and your son. Now you care.
That's how it is. That is what I see. The overwhelming majority of people are able to compartmentalize it because it's not happening to them. And it's really sad. It's just really sad. So that's why I, try to just pick somebody I know in their life that they love. Because here's the thing. I think most people, when they're confronted with Trump's policy on a bird's eye view, they can be like, okay, whatever. But face to face, I feel like they have empathy. It's easy to act like you don't on, social media or at the voting booth because it doesn't affect you. But when it affects people that you love, I feel like most people respond to that. And I don't know. I certainly don't have all the answers. Shit, I would have, Kamala Harris would have at least won Oklahoma County if I had even a tiny bit of the answers. But
Uh,
it's
but not now we're witnessing, right? Because exactly to your point, now that it's affecting people economically, now that they're losing their health care, now that the grocery prices haven't gone down, Angie, I don't know if you've seen the poll numbers. I mean, it is bad. He's at 36 approval. I was talking to Mike Madrid a couple of weeks ago. I said he was at 38. I said, Mike, I think he might get to 35. He goes, I maybe watch. And he's like, wow, you were right. And he does the polls for a living. He's negative double digits on the economy. Healthcare subsidies probably won't get extended. We still haven't talked about the big beautiful bill, which is a
yeah.
permanent tax cut
You
for the
have a
billion.
great Donald Trump impression.
I've been doing it for too long. Big beautiful bill. Somalis
Yeah.
are garbage. What? Uh, Angie, huh? Pumps. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And if this is what it takes for people to finally wake up, then I say, it's painful for me that it took 10 years. It's painful for me that you couldn't see the suffering of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Muslim ban, calling Somali people garbage, spreading neo-Nazi lies about Haitians, depriving poor women of reproductive rights. But now that you're on board, here's the Big Ten. Let's move forward.
Right.
I do want to ask you about this because you said, you died in the wool, conservative, Christian, you tried to, Jen said she tried to convert a few times, realizing it. What was your, if you will, the deprogramming moment for you?
Okay. So I would say that I had like your typical Oklahoma upper middle class life. I got married, I had a career, but it was kind of secondary in my head, like being a wife and a mother. That's what I wanted. That was what I aspired to more than practicing law. And on the outside, it looked, you have 3 kids, you have a nice house, you have a husband that is purportedly nice. And then you find out that everything you believed about your spouse was a lie,
Yeah.
that you are living with somebody that you would not recognize on a movie. Like there's 2 movies, the one you see and then the one that's actually happening. And I did not have the emotional ability or the mental capacity to be able to tackle those problems because I had never developed emotional maturity. I
Mm.
had always just, gone straight down the line with what my parents said to do, other than I went to law school instead of being a school teacher. But so it was like, this is real shit. And it was that awakening that, like, wait, I've done everything I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
According to the list, I should have a great life. My husband shouldn't be behaving this way. I shouldn't be in this position. And it was at that point I was like, shit, this kind of shit happens to everybody. And you open up about that. And it took me a long time to open up to other people, and then you realize everybody's got shit. It's
Yeah.
not, the privileged Christian that gets away with all this. And so it gave me an insight from once people knew what I had gone through. I had so many people that I didn't really know that well they thought the same thing I did, that their life was screwed up, but everybody else's life was perfect because that's what you're sold to. So it took like 10 years of therapy and getting my shit together, becoming addicted to opioids after a back surgery, getting
Oh,
all
I'm
those.
sorry. I didn't know that. Oof.
Yes, I had 2 back surgeries in a year, and so I got addicted to pain pills, So it's just like, oh my gosh, so you have to really do some introspection. So I would say it started in 2008 and
Mm.
kinda I would say by 2019, I was, okay, I had reconciled it accurately enough.
If what you said, believe it or not, I mentioned in my book, and I'm not using that to shamelessly promote my book. Buy it or don't, it's fine. But exactly what you said, and you said list, and I was waiting for you to say the word checklist. I call it the checklist of success that
Mhm.
many immigrants and many Muslim, it's in Muslim communities, immigrant communities, right? This is a checklist. You follow the checklist. You check off all the boxes. You've achieved the American dream. You have a spouse who's like 7 to 8 on the hotness scale. You have 2.3 kids. You buy a house. You get a Toyota, a minivan. If you get some money, you get an Acura, a BMW. You get a nice house. You smile. You go to parties. You smile. Always smile. Everyone thinks you're successful, even if
Right.
you're depressed, even if you have anxiety. You pray it away because what do you have to be depressed about? What do you have to be anxious about? Everything's fine. Log kya bolenge? What will people say? Log kya bolenge? So keep smiling. You can't be poor. You're a good Christian, good Muslim. God loves you. You can't get divorced. Only bad people get divorced. You can't have a child out of a wedlock. Only bad people have children out of
Right.
wedlock, right? You can't be on drugs. Only bad people get addicted to drugs. You're morally superior. And then something happens in life. You get poor. Something happens in life. Your spouse cheats on you. Something happens in life. The checklist blows up. And then you realize, oh, wait, I'm a human. Oh,
Right.
wait, people make mistakes. Oh, wait, things aren't perfect. Oh, wait, I know I'm not a sinful, terrible person. I'm just a human being. I got dealt like a wrong deck of cards. And oh, maybe that poor black kid, he went through the same thing. And that single mom went through the same thing. And I think it completely, for people like us who grew up in these communities of middle class, upper middle class, suburban, immigrant, yes, very similar to what you said, immigrant, Christian, Muslim, it shatters its narrative
Yeah.
of perfection.
Your worldview is shattered. And I think you're right. I think moral superiority is a great way to put it. I equate it to entitlement. Like I'm
Mm,
entitled to better. I'm entitled to do this and that. And, I realize I'm not entitled to do shit. I need to work my ass off to help everybody because I do have the ability to, um, you know, I had to go back to work full time. We lost our house. Like there was a lot of shit that I had to overcome. And now I'm like, I need to be a voice for other people like that. And that's what makes my conviction so much stronger is I hate to be like suffering builds character, that kind of bullshit.
yeah.
But when you get knocked down and you realize, okay, these are my options, and you have to pull yourself up, it makes you want to fight for other people more. At least it did for me. Like I need to stand up for every LGBTQIA plus person that I can, because in Oklahoma, the government's against them. Same with poor women. We have to fight. And one thing we always talk about on the show is white America is now figuring out what it's like to have been a Black American.
Mm.
Like the persecution, like I came to work and it's like, I'm kind of scared. Like I've never been scared. She's like, welcome to, a Black mother's life.
Mm.
And so it's given me a lot of perspective that I didn't know that I needed, but I really needed it.
It comes back full circle to what you were saying is many of us, regardless of ethnicity, because sometimes it's just class, folks, the
Right.
superiority, the lack of empathy, the lack of the ability to engage with someone's narrative. Well, didn't happen to me. I did it right. I'm good. They should work harder. Stop being lazy. And then when it happens to you, you're like, oh, I'm not a terrible person. I just got dealt like a wrong deck of cards, and I gotta play the cards that I had in my hand. And oh, maybe other people are like that as well. It humbles you. But what it also does, Angie, you're the good ones. It expanded your capacity for empathy. What we've seen it do to other people is if you will, it solidifies their cruelty. They raise the ladder up, right?
Yeah.
They're like, well, if this happened to me and I'm in it, rah. But I'm so glad you went the opposite way. And just totally random aside, I was thinking about this yesterday, just randomly. What you told me. I went to my daughter has dance. I'm a dance dad. This is what I have to do.
I
So I have
was
to
a
go.
dance mom.
So, they cray. These dance mothers,
They're
folks,
crazy.
they cray. Like
Yeah.
my wife and I are like, yo, is something wrong with us? Because we're super chill. And they're like, why wasn't my daughter in the front? I'm like,
Yeah.
should we be pissed off about this? Yeah. So I'm a chill dad sitting there drinking my chai, like literally do not blend. But I went to a restaurant to pick up food. I saw this man there and he was all by himself waiting for food. And he just looked, Angie, like really, it's just been on my mind. He just looked alone. And, he just looked sad and alone and he was not talking to anyone. I could tell like he was single. And I sat there and I just felt really bad for him. And, something in my mind was like, I know that feeling. I was once that guy.
Yeah.
I was one in the Wajhat from 20. If I was 20, Wajhat would be like, oh, just a guy by himself. But things that happened in my life, Waj at 45 was like, I know that feeling. And I really did like a small prayer for him. I didn't want to bother him, but like I just felt really bad. And I feel like if we can expand our empathy as Americans for not just fellow Americans, but what's happening around the world with our privilege, even though the country is in pain, we have so much more money, so much more privileges, and so many other people.
Right.
We can really help folks. And this is where I wanted to ask you, and I really appreciate you and Jen doing this because, again, as white women from Midwest Christian communities, you all championing Palestinians and you all talking about the genocide, I think has been a massive game changer for many white women who are like, well, why should I care about that? They just hate each other, don't they?
Right. Yeah. We were kind of late on that. And and we talk about this on the podcast. Like when you live in Oklahoma, you don't think about where Israel is or what Israel, you just don't. It's just not on the radar. And so when the pictures and there, of course, October 7th was terrible. So awful. There should have been retaliation. But what ensued was, you know, abject genocide, ethnic cleansing, all the things. But so I was a little bit late to the party. And once I saw the pictures and you hear about, I'm like, these women and men don't love their children any less than I do.
Mm.
They want the same for their children that I want for my children: safety, happiness, love, friendship. And so it's that to me is the part that I cannot wrap my head around, is that why we're still questioning, well, this was a necessary retaliation. No, it wasn't. It's gone
No.
too far. You cannot say that. It's just like objectively, why are we talking about whether, protecting a pedophile's okay? Protecting pedophiles should always be wrong. Full stop. I don't give a shit who in the Democratic Party did it. You cannot agree to disagree on that topic. That's just fundamentally who we are. And so if we see children being starved and murdered and, no hospitals, no housing, I mean, it's just like nobody can think that's okay. I mean, I don't understand that.
I think you and Jen, especially with your grilling of Ram and Corey, exposed this hypocrisy, right? Like, oh, we're against fascism, but we'll kind of support genocide abroad. Oh, we're against Donald Trump, but Benjamin Netanyahu, eh. And I think you two in particular being the messengers of that message was very powerful.
Well, thank you. She's a much better communicator than I am. So she
I
takes.
disagree. I disagree. I know it's a lot of people say that, but like, you're an attorney. Like, you're one of us.
No,
You're there.
I'm a good communicator, and I have public peak. I say that public speaking skills. I'm able to talk in front of people, but she's like an elite communicator. She's really good at it. So I think that now that we've kind of come to the party on that, I hope it helps, because I just, the Trump Gaza shit, I'm just like, that grossed me out. Like every time I think about that, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, this is what you want to do with somebody's home, is turn it, I mean, ugh, it gets overwhelming.
Riviera of the Middle East on completely exterminated land with bones and bodies
Right.
of children. But yeah, Riviera of the Middle East. We'll just make it, folks. I'm not joking. And he released an AI video. How cruel and vulgar he is. He released a disgusting AI video of him and Netanyahu chilling at the poolside. I'm not making this up. People forget we live in the United States of amnesia. And this genocide and its occupation is still ongoing. And I think the reason I want to stress this, because what people don't know is Netanyahu's base is not necessarily Jews and young Jews. It's white evangelical Christians. It's like
Right.
folks in Oklahoma. So,
Yeah.
and I know when it comes to like the white supremacy and the misogyny that's been entrenched for decades, Israel, America, Israel, democracy, Israel, Christianity. So to break free from that, bravo. And I think you and Jen are really helping a lot of other people see. And this has been a remarkable shift, Jen. I've been in this game a long time. In 2 years, to see the numbers shift on this issue. I mean, the
Yes.
last time I remember such a rapid shift, and you and I remember this, was 2008. Democrats were like, gays, we like you.
Yep.
But gay marriage is gross. And then 2012, they're like, gays,
Yep.
yay, everyone marry. So I feel like the shift is generational. Things are changing. I don't want to keep you longer. I'll keep you for a couple of minutes. But speaking about this anger that's rising, right? Speaking about the name of your podcast, I've had it. I think that's a fantastic name for how many people are feeling that feeling right now, especially now in 2025. Like, I've had it. I'm done with the establishment. I'm done with the oligarchy. I'm done with the billionaires. I'm done with genocide. I'm done with supporting genocide. And I'm done with weak, kind of limp type of ineffectual leaders who are not
Yep.
willing to go to bat for the immigrants, for Muslims, for Palestinians, for women, for LGBTQ. If you're not going to fight, get the F out. And I feel like you and Jen are there. You're like, Democrats, if you're not going to fight, peace out.
See ya.
Bring in someone new. Talk to us about what type of Democrat, because that's what we have, folks. We got the Democrats and the Republicans. So we got to push the Democrats. They ain't the same. We all know. But we have to not, this is my opinion, Angie, we can't just be content with vote blue no matter who. They didn't vote for Mamdani. They didn't support Mamdani.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What a
So
mess.
we need a culling. I feel like we got to push them and create the type of Democratic fighter that we deserve. And we only have 2 years. That's where I'm at. I wanted your take on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that one thing that I think the Democrats, a disadvantage for the Democrats versus the Republicans is the Democratic base, they're well read, they
Mm.
understand nuance, and they can have two feelings at once. So, here's my thing. We've got to get APAC money out of our candidates' pockets. And when
Amen.
Marjorie
Amen.
Taylor Greene is leading the charge on that, we're in trouble. And then we have
You say it,
people.
Angie. No one listens to me. So listen to what
No,
Angie just
I
said.
mean, she's the one posting, I take no APAC money. And I'm like, too bad we don't have leaders that say that. But we just have to look at, are the corporate donors the same for Donald Trump and the person I'm voting for? And if so, why? And so I think at primaries, we need to make that, and Citizens United, we've got to get rid of that if the Democrats ever come back in power. But I also think we have to leave space for our candidates to evolve.
Yep.
Um, Gavin Newsom, who seems to be leading the charge at this point, I'm pissed at him that he kind of threw. Kylie's texting me.
Kind of
Yeah,
like, get off.
Kylie's like, I was like, okay. But
Yeah.
we have to let him evolve. Like Gavin Newsom came out on APAC money recently. Glad to hear that. But we have to get corporate donations. We need we need leaders that are not beholden to corporations, whether it be insurance, APAC, APAC being the worst offender, but there are a lot of offenders. And then I think we have to go with people that have a populist message. Like, look how far the Republican Party's moved under MAGA. Now they're just, small government. We're pro international forces, not NATO. What is it called? What do the Republicans always say? It's just slipped my mind, like
Well,
national defense.
yeah, now they're pro-Nazi. I mean, just
Now
straight
they're
up Nazi.
right. So it's like, look, we can move these people. We can move them and say, we want you to be completely free of corporate donations, and we want you to fight for everybody. We don't want you to pick, I'm going to leave out the transgender people. I'm going to leave out
There you
Muslims.
go.
You got to, everybody's the same. All of us are the same, or none of us are the same. And we have to fight for everybody. We cannot leave anybody behind, regardless of sexual identity, race. If you are human, you need to be protected just like every other class. And that is what we're seeing now is we're picking on Somalians. We're picking on immigrants. We cannot be a society that demeans people by virtue of their skin or sexual orientation. It's fucking crazy. Can I say that on
I'm
here?
Yes, you can. I'm going to let Angie go, but I swear to God, we did not share notes. And Angie just said what I've been saying for a while without realizing it. Is I said the 3 litmus tests for a Democratic leader moving forward is number 1, they have to stop sucking at the teat of the oligarchy and corporate money.
Yep.
Number 2, they cannot fight fascists at home if they celebrate and make excuses for genocide abroad and support Israel and its occupation of the Palestinians. And number 3, you cannot throw the woke under the bus. You can't throw the immigrants under the bus or the transgender under the bus. It's all of us or none of us. And Mamdani shows you the way. Affordability
Yep.
for everyone. Stand for something, fight for something. Angie, it is fantastic. I had so much fun talking to you.
I
I
had so
kept
much fun.
you.
Please give your dad my best.
He'll be so happy. He's gonna WhatsApp me right now. Shamelessly promote yourself before we leave, please.
Okay, you can find the podcast on all the social media platforms. I've Had It podcast, and we also have a YouTube channel for iHip News, which is daily drops, and then I've Had It comes out twice a week, and then all your podcast platforms. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
all. Thanks everyone. And I just sent a link for a discount. Everything is free at the left hook. I'm a terrible capitalist. Forgive me, Angie. There's no paywall, but I depend on the kindness of strangers like a Brown Blanche Dubois. So I have a discount up. It's 25% off. It's like $380 a month, $38 a year. If you like what you see, I have 800 kids. Let me feed two of them. And this has been Angie Pump Sullivan, co-host of I Had It podcast. I'll be back at 2 o'clock. Thanks so much, Angie. Come back anytime.
Goodbye. Thank you. Good to talk
Later.
to you.